and we will remember her from school, right, Uncle Vin? Or the Brown or Harvard degrees that she earned, or because of her many, many honors and accolades, or because of her rise to the position of Chief Judge of the Appellate Court of Connecticut, or even because of the sky-high stilettos, white pearls, and fancy hats that she loved to wear. My mother stood out from the crowd because of her optimism, her fairness, her generosity, her faith in people, her kindness, and her deep love for her family. It was my mother's cool touch on my brow that I will remember, the way her elegant fingers would gently caress my face as she held me in her gaze to say how much she loved me, the way she repeatedly told me and my siblings and my children and my husband that we were brilliant and beautiful and perfect. These things weren't things she told to us on our birthdays or in special toasts. These were things she told us every time she saw us. This was an everyday, ordinary occurrence, and that, in and of itself, is not ordinary or everyday. Far from it. She had an uncanny ability to predict my path in life. For Halloween, instead of a store-bought Superman costume, she helped me dress as Lois Lane, complete with a customized Daily Planet newspaper. I wore a pencil skirt and one of her silk blouses safety pinned to fit my fourth grade self. Here, she has made her mark. She has improved us all. We may be standing here today in the shade, but we are all still living in her light.
Glad to see you all here. I'm Bill. So I'll say a few words about my mom. She taught me a lot. All the most important lessons in life she taught me, I think, before I was age 12. And I'll tell you one story from one of my earliest memories. And of course, all of you know my mother, or not all, but you know she had a fabulous professional life. Some of you know her mostly as a professional. She had many wonderful accomplishments and achievements. But to me, as a child, those things were just normal. Like, well, mom went to work and she did something and then she came home and we had dinner. And so as a very small child, she had gone to the trouble of finding the only female pediatrician available to have her, because she wanted me to be raised knowing that a woman could be a doctor. And one day, I went to the pediatrician's office. My doctor, whose name was Dr. Elsa, I think Teitla, she was not there. And one of her colleagues in the practice saw me, and he came into the room and he said, "Oh, let me have a look at you." And I was so little, I had to crawl up into my mother's lap, and I whispered in her ear and said, "Mom, something's wrong. That man says he's a doctor. But everyone knows only women can be doctors." And at that point, she realized maybe she'd pushed it a little far in giving me that life lesson, but it stuck. And so I think, like my sisters, one of the most amazing things about her was how she gave her love. It was not with any question or any critique. It was daily and constant and abundant. And she made you feel like you were perfect and special because she always said it. And it was just unquestioning. And of course, after age 12, I did test her love as a teenager, maybe more than I should have. But she continued to love me, regardless of what I was doing or my occasional misbehaviors, and that was a beautiful thing. And so I just want to say, Mom, I will always be lifted up by your love, so powerful that it survives your mortal life. Thanks. Okay, Peter.
Gathered here today to remember Billie is very hard for me to put in the right words to express how much Billie has meant to me over all these years, but I will try to put my love for Billie into just a few words. And I'm so fortunate to have had Billie as a mother-in-law. It sounds odd to say mother-in-law because she was really like a second mom to me. Her loving spirit, kindness, sense of family always have been an example of what a great mom she was, a great grandmother, a great great-grandmother, and a friend. Many years ago, when I met Tony, Billie welcomed me into her family with open arms. And she always treated me like one of her own. It was a privilege to be a part of the love that she shared with her family. And Billie set the bar very, very high for all of us. Billie's unparalleled love and devotion to Ellen, Tony, and Bill was just amazing to see and to feel. But even more wonderful was the overwhelming joy in Billie's heart that came from this unconditional love and care that she received from her sibling, her Ellen and Tony and Bill. And it was just an amazing thing to see. And I've learned so much from Billie over the years. And she's taught us, she's led by example, and she's really the real value of love, family, friendship, kindness, honesty. And she has been and always will be an inspiration to all of us. And she'll have a special place in my heart. Billie was there to support us through heart. Billie was there to support us through life's challenges, disappointments, as well as to celebrate the excitement of successes and having fun all along the way with a smile. She traveled all around the world: Madrid, Amsterdam, New York, London, France, San Antonio, LA, Mexico. It goes on. But just to be there, not only for the births and the graduations and the weddings, but just to be there with us and support us. And we are so lucky to have her unconditional love and support for all those years. In a quiet, determined way, Billie was a trailblazer and a leader. Billie was an amazing person who left a long legacy. She inspired change for women's rights. She shaped how the future generations around the world will think, how they'll act, and how they'll live their lives. As a scholar, as a lawyer, as a Chief Justice, as a strong, independent woman, she was a fantastic role model to all of us. Billie taught me how to live and enjoy life. And all of us today already know, and all of us that aren't here today know. I will end by saying, Billie has made this world a better place to be for all of us.
So we are honored that my mother's friend and colleague, Judge Alexander D. Pentima, has agreed to speak. Judge D. Pentima was Chief Judge of the Connecticut Appellate Court from 2010 until just recently at the end of July 2020. Mom and Judge D. Pentima shared the same wit, warmth, and wisdom, and we appreciate her taking the time to be with us here today.
It's a real privilege, a humbling privilege, to be invited by Ellen, Antonia, and William to speak this morning about their remarkable mother. And I speak on behalf of Chief Judge Bill Bright, the judges and judge trial referees of the appellate court, and its entire staff, present and former, in expressing condolences to all of Judge DuPont's family. Billie DuPont, Brown University and Harvard Law, lawyer, Connecticut Superior Court judge, and appellate court chief judge, was a trailblazer. Her accomplishments at every stage of her legal career were significant. Instead of detailing all of them, however, I'm just going to focus on her time at the appellate court. I said the following words to Billie almost 7 years ago at the 30th anniversary celebration of the appellate court. Thank you, Billie, for your dedication and service to this court as chief judge and beyond. Your courageous innovations and your insight continue to improve the court. You inspire me every day. I did not say more because, as you all know, she did not relish accolades about herself, preferring to praise others. So now is my opportunity to say a little more. There are early court photos in the conference room where we judges eat lunch together every day. Photos of the front porch of Billie's house in her beloved New London, where the whole court, staff included, would be invited down for a picnic every year. In myriad ways, her intelligence, her grace, her humility, and her generous, kind spirit guided the appellate court through its formative years. And as an aside to illustrate her humility, Jill Begeman shared a story from when Billie was chief judge, and she and Jill, who was her executive assistant at the time, were reviewing the impressive resumes of prospective law clerks filled with amazing hobbies and extracurricular activities. Judge DuPont looked at Jill and said, she had nothing comparable in terms of skills. Maybe she could play jacks. Jill demurred. When asked at a 2007 interview what she most wanted to be remembered for as chief judge of the appellate court, Judge DuPont replied, as one who fostered collegiality and tried to have all the members of the court feel an important part of our common goal, that is to deliver decisions. All of our decisions are published so that it would be one cohesive body of law for the lawyers of the state. And it helps a lot if everybody gets along. One of the first things I asked was that everyone, when they came to court in the morning, kept their doors open and not closed, that we ate lunch together at least once a week, and that we saw each other as much as possible out of court as well as in. I would like to be remembered for that. Billie, I remember you for that, and for championing women in leadership roles, including myself. I remember your thoughtful, wise opinions, including the rare but right dissents, for your tenacious skill in preserving and enhancing the court through legislation that provided for judge trial referees to sit on appellate court cases, and increasing the number of judges from 5 to 9. I remember you for your ability to wear very, very high heels in very inclement weather, actually in any weather. To the children and grandchildren Billie was so proud of, know that she continues to inspire and guide her other beloved family, the appellate court she built. Thank you.
Hello. I first have some remarks from my cousin Jacob. so I'll read those first. My wife Emily and I send our love from London. We wish we could be with you in person, but we are here in spirit. Put simply, my grandmother was the kindest, most supportive, and unfailingly considerate person on the planet. Having been her grandson for nearly 38 years, there are so many memories I could share. Billie always made me feel loved and valued no matter the situation. Spending childhood summers with her and my US family were always the highlight of my year. Hors d'oeuvres of shrimp cocktail or cheese and crackers, movie visits where she might have a restorative nap, driving in her Cadillac or later borrowing Old Reliable, trips to Frank Pepe's Pizzeria in New Haven, the pride at seeing her portrait at the court and hearing strangers tell me what a brilliant grandmother I had. I could go on. It was all amazing, just like my Grandma Billie. Not least my father's family, the Fields, the Bells, who extend their sympathies from England and Hong Kong. Emily and I were so lucky to have Billie in our lives for so long. She is without a doubt a perfect grandmother. Now, I also have a few things to say. I don't really know where to begin with my grandmother. I could discuss her incredible professional achievements or her incredible personal ones, all of which I'll spoken about today. So I guess I'll try to talk about the uniting element in these two big parts of her life, and what I will try to take away with me from her: humility, fearlessness, and a level of kindness seen once in a generation. Grandma Billie's humility was easy to see. This is a woman with a legal career so worthy of bragging rights that even to claim you knew her would give you bragging rights. And yet, I never heard a single word from her about her innumerable personal achievements. Instead, she would only ask you about yourself. Her fearlessness was also clearly evident. I don't think the word fear was in her emotional vocabulary. Although I suppose that will happen when you have an IQ that allows you to treat the New York Times Saturday crossword puzzle like a third-grade spelling test. And finally, her kindness. If you didn't know Grandma Billie was kind, then you probably haven't met Grandma Billie. She was the most generous person you could ever meet. You'll know this if you ever tried to pay a bill after eating with her at a restaurant. Remember restaurants? People quite literally had to fake going to the restroom to intercept waiters to make sure that she didn't somehow figure out a way to pay for everybody's dinner. But Grandma Billie was only generous by constantly trying to steal checks. She was generous with her time and her knowledge too. She gave so much to us and so much to the state of Connecticut. Grandma Billie leaves behind a legacy of greatness in all areas of her life and the highest of bars for all of us to live up to. She was the perfect blend of heart, bravery, and brilliance. I have so many more stories about my Grandma Billie, and I will always remember, and how I will always remember her. But in the spirit of fairness, one of Grandma's most prevalent qualities, it wouldn't be fair of me to keep on going forever. So with that, I'll just say, we love you, Grandma, and I'll turn it over to my sister, Natalie.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm Billie's eldest granddaughter. While reflecting on my grandmother's life these past few days, I keep coming back to a little-known quote from a well-known book we both loved, Little Women. It's one I know she read many times over the course of her life. Its author, Louisa May Alcott, wrote, "Make each day both useful and pleasant, and prove that you understand the worth of time by employing it well. Then youth will bring few regrets, and life will become a beautiful success." Big, ambitious dreams, fueled by quiet strength and surrounded by loud family members. She was the sharpest of. Thinking of her now, I can hear the industrious sound of her pencil scratching paper. She was my first pen pal, the eager reader of all my short stories, and a better source for book reviews than the New York Times. I can feel the firm clasp of her hand on my wedding day, see her wide smile beneath an even wider brimmed hat, and hear her warm, matter-of-fact voice telling me, and all of her grandchildren, how lucky she was to have us, when we were, in fact, the lucky ones. Lucky to have a grandmother who loved us so unreservedly, so completely. The world was a better place with my grandmother's light in it. But I hope to keep a small part of her light by living each day a little more as she did, trying to make each day a little more useful, more pleasant, and to employ my time here well, finding opportunities to follow in her extraordinary example of integrity, generosity, and love. Grandma Billie, my fashion icon, my hero, my friend, I will keep you with me always. And now I'm going to read a short remembrance from my younger sister, Tessa, who could not be with us today. Grandma, your accomplishments were limitless and innumerable, but more importantly, you gave your whole heart to everything and everyone. I will keep you in my mind every day to inspire me to do more and remind me of the honor of being loved by you. There is no one like you. You made me feel special every time I saw you. I will miss your love every day, and I will love you always, with all my heart, Tessa. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dustin.
Hey everyone, afternoon, what time it is at the moment. Crossed over to noon. So I'm Dustin, Bill's son, one of the grandchildren here today, and I'm here primarily to read, or primarily what I'll talk about is to read a letter from my sister Jackie, who unfortunately also cannot be here with us today given the circumstances. For those of you who don't know Jackie, you kind of think me, foot shorter, 100 pounds skinnier, and getting a picture. Jackie also took all of Billie's available writing and reading genes, so I'll do my best to deliver her words with the same eloquence and confidence that I know she would if she were here. So here goes. Dear Grandma, I've written these words to celebrate some memorable days we enjoyed together. First, an amazing weekend in Kentucky when I was very young. The horse I saw is memorialized from all available angles. There is also a photo of us in great race day hats, and I would expect no less. Second, the many times I needed help on homework assignments. There were projects where we had to interview a grandparent. Early on, I only had you. Or do family tree assignments. Your record keeping and scrapbooks are unparalleled. And there were also projects where we had to interview a female role model. I must have been the only one in class who could interview the same person for all three. At the time, I'm not sure that rarity occurred to me. Third, visiting you briefly while you were spending time with Ellen in England. I was visiting a friend while you were also in town, and I suppose when you live in California, it's as easy to visit London as it is Connecticut. What struck me in that visit was that although you didn't completely remember I was out of college or understand fully why I was in London, you were crystal clear on the details of Brexit, and you had opinions. Nothing printed in the paper, or multiple papers, in fact, seemed to have escaped your attention. I was so impressed with your curiosity and attention to detail and your political concern. In remembering you, what I want to tell you is thank you. You checked all of the grandma boxes, and in my mind, all the life ones too. While things are sometimes different, fancy hats and taking photos of horses, the world would have us think you can't family, good to our community. This is likely even more complicated for women, although it's much easier now compared to what you were up against. But you had and did all of those things. You did it both with work ethic and with undeniable glamour. My original model of a fashionista, a serious professional, and a loving mom. I didn't think any of that always came easy, but you still created the future you wanted. I'm not with everyone today, but I'm sending love and gratitude. I'm enjoying the many memories you've left us with that I think are foundations for how we have all pursued our lives. You were and are a champion of the family, and a champion to me in my life.
I think based on what everyone said here today, it should come as no surprise that every time I visited my grandma Billie, she would end every day with saying how lucky she was to have a perfect grandson. Not sure how accurate that statement was, but it spoke to the unreserved and unconditional love that she would show on a daily basis. And there are 1,000 memories and stories that I could tell to show that, but I just count myself incredibly lucky to have been around at the same time as someone like Grandma Billie, to be there to witness her kindness, her hardworkingness, and to have the most perfect grandmother I could imagine. So as opposed to going through some of those memories, I thought it might be good for us to have a moment of silence for her, where we can all go through the memories that we have with her. And for those who are maybe a little unfamiliar with how this works, what I'd like you to kind of imagine is if you're sitting on the beach in New London, maybe even next to Grandma Billie, and you're watching boats go by, and as each boat is like a remembrance or a feeling, and as it comes closer into view, inspect it, appreciate its beauty, and then let it go over the horizon as a new boat comes into focus. And if you feel moved to speak and want to share a few brief words, we encourage you to do so. Just try and keep them as brief as possible so that we can leave room for the silence and for others who might want to speak. And if you would like to come up here to speak, then.
My name is Reed McCluggage. 1982, I came to New London to be the editor and publisher of the newspaper. And shortly after that, I had the privilege of asking Billie DuPont if she would come on and be the first woman on our board of directors. For years, she served with great distinction on that board. And after all, it was the perfect place for her to come because her writing career really started at the day when she was a child and wrote pieces for the young person's column. And I think she even won some money doing that. And as you all know, she was a great writer and thinker. As a director and trustee of the day, she was my colleague and became my friend over many years. She was also my boss. So I'm here to say farewell. Good morning still. My name is Tom Bishop. When I came to New London in 1969, there were two women lawyers in New London County, Billie DuPont and Carolyn Kelly. What struck me right away about Billie before I knew her was what I knew of her. And that was, she was not ghettoized into some of the areas of law in which women were permitted to practice those days. She was a business lawyer. She represented Conn College, Lawrence Hospital. Not sure if she represented the day then, but several businesses. Billie, as I got to know her, and I got to know her very well and very personally, taught me how to be a lawyer. What she taught me about that was to honor whoever you're dealing with, to honor the issues you debate, and to act with respect to one another, no matter how much you may disagree. When I became a judge in 1994, very shortly after that, Billie called and asked if I would speak at the unveiling of her portrait in the appellate court. What an honor for me, this newbie judge, to come up to the appellate court to be asked to speak from the voice of New London. One of my then colleagues, who was the chief court administrator, was standing there, and another judge turned to him and said, "Who the heck is that guy?" But who I was Billie's friend. And she wanted New London to be present there in Hartford when she was honored. And then fast forward to when we became colleagues on the appellate court. And I had the opportunity to sit and learn with Billie. Oh, she could write. There's a little bit of a formula to an appellate court opinion. She defied formulas. Her writings were creative. When new law clerks would come, I would tell them, go read Judge DuPont, read Ellen Peters, who retired from the Supreme Court and came to the appellate court, and the two of them were very close friends. Those are writers. They are creative thinkers. When she and I disagreed, and it was rare, it was such a pleasant experience to just disagree with Billie, and then to find out that she was right. She never lorded that over me, but honored it. So thank you, Billie, and thank you for inviting me to share these moments with you.
Um, so I couldn't wait to speak because this is a good one. So 16 years ago, I was Judge DuPont cleaning lady. So I used to clean her house, and I do everything very quick in order to get some time to go to her office and read the statutes and the books. And then one day she called me, and then she said, I noticed, I guess she noticed that before, but she hadn't said anything to me, that you've been reading. Do you like the law? I said, well, I'm an attorney. She said, what? What are you doing here? So yes, I came from Colombia. I'm an immigrant. And at that moment, I said, I had to do this right now, because I was thinking about asking her to help me to maybe clean her office, because in Colombia, every judge has their own clerk's office. So I was imagining filing papers, something to give me some sense of my career back. So she said, I asked her, can I clean your file, something? And she said to me, let me see what I can do. Next day, and then I got an interview 2 days later. I'm a program manager for the judicial branch, and oh my God, she knew it. You know, that the impact that she caused in my life, not only for me, you know, the quality of life of my family. So it's a privilege to be here today. And I made sure in life she knew everything she did. But today it feels good to let you know another good thing about your loved one. Thank you, Isabel.
My wife suggested I say a couple of words. I'm introduced to them as Being married to,
Good camera.
am I there yet?
Yep,
Okay.
you're in. You're in.
Being married to Billie's babysitter, so I go back a little ways. And all I knew was Ann said she's she's kind of an important lady. She was certainly the real deal. And I get a call and he'd go, Rito, we got to go to Billie. She's got a bird. She's got a bat. So we'd wind up going through the house, which was not a 3-bedroom ranch. And we'd capture whatever it was, and we had to let it go. You couldn't whack it. It had to be let go. So, and then there was a winter where there was a big flood in the basement. Now their basement is the size of Lake Conomic. And we went down there, and there's 4 or 5 feet of water. Canoes are floating around the basement, and I was helpful with the Pequot engine. So we brought a fire truck down. Couldn't pump the water. We got a pump. It was going to be a long job. So we're standing in the basement in water with another fireman, and it was kind of a crummy job. Next thing you know, the door opens upstairs, and here comes this apparition, if you will, wearing a gorgeous light blue suit, high heels, a beautiful blouse, and she comes walking down the stairs with a silver tray with shrimp and all sorts of things in it, with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. And I told her thank you because I knew it wouldn't be, and the fireman, she said, okay, enjoy, and went upstairs, and he goes, the hell was that all about? You don't know the lady. I said, she throws a great party. Shortly after that, we were in a jam with IRS. Remember when you're settling Ann's mom's estate? And so we had a big deal. We went down to Billie's office, and she said, you just sit here. If I need you, I'll come get you. And she says, well, is the guy here? And she said, no, but he'll be here. He's a guy with horn-rimmed glasses and a briefcase. So went in, door closes, very quiet. And all of a sudden we hear, all right, you win. I'm done. All right, you win. Door slams, she goes, okay, we're all set, you can go. And lastly, I would tell you her kindness, I think 5 years ago, 6, out of the blue, she calls and says, Reed, this is Billie. I said, hey, how you doing? And we chatted a little bit. She goes, did I notice, is it your son that's going to get admitted to the bar? I said, yeah, oh, that's wonderful. She said, it was on whatever the date was. She goes, well, tell him forget about that. Come to the appellate court, and I'll do it. So we did, and we went to the appellate court, and it was really pretty spectacular. There was only 4 or 5 young people there to get sworn in. She said, and now, of course, we have to go to lunch. So we paraded over to the Hartford Club, and we all went in, and I looked on the door, and it just said closed on Mondays. So we all went in, and I said to the lady, I said, hey, nothing for nothing. You guys are closed on Mondays. She goes, oh, not for Judge Dupont. So that, I've known her 50 years, and, I don't know her professionally, but, she never skipped a beat about being kind and nice. The whole thing on the beach is okay as long as you don't make her get her feet wet over her ankles, because that's how. But when you think about being in New London and your family and what a crowd is, it really makes a short list of really, really nice, kind people.
Being Billie's brother was not easy. All these years of standing in her shadow, it goes way back. The most interesting was when we got our report cards. I used to get mine, didn't waste any time. I ran like hell to show it to my parents and sign it, because hers was coming with all A's. So I've been standing in the shadow for a long, long time. Reed, where are you? No, Reed,
Get the other Reed.
they're over there. It was Uncle Andy.
That's it.
We used to come home on Saturday nights, and she would look in the paper to see if she won 50 cents. That's what he paid for the award. Anyway, I must say, it really was interesting. She was the most wonderful person. She read to me. In fact, she would do her studies just like that. And then my mother of the century would turn the lights out. She had a flashlight, and she would, and when one eye got tired, she pulled it and read with the other eye. She was amazing, and I can say these were our younger days, and it was absolutely wonderful. So anyway, my father, I'm sorry, Dad, but I'm going to tell the story. I have a younger brother who was quite a student, and then I had Bill ahead of me. So I used to say to my father, Dad, what happened? I'm in the middle, weak sperm. And he gets so upset with me. But anyway, we've all said it for later years, but I was there in the younger years. And with a name like Antoinette Loiacono and Vincent Loiacono, she taught me. When I went to college, I sat way in the back, and with a name like Loiacono, they didn't call on me for 4 years. So all I can say, Billie, you
Thank you, Ellen. My name is Molly LeBan, and I have worked at the appellate court since the late 1990s. I knew Judge DuPont during her years as a trial judge referee. What her clerks meant to her and what she meant to her clerks. And I have been in communication with a few of them since we learned of her passing, and everyone is sad beyond belief and is able to say how much she did for them and their career. As I said, I did not clerk for her, but I did a lot of things for her. Sometimes I was just the chauffeur and helped her when Judge Patella, when they didn't want to have two cars, and I took her to a Harvard reunion. I told her, my son, that he had passed. He said, Mom, I'm so sorry because ours. And Antonio, and it was, I am not by any stretch of the imagination. And no one had ever said that to me before. And it was just the kindest thing. I am sorry to all of you for your loss. And I know that the court has lost a giant. Thank you.
The sad time when we have to leave our mother here, but we leave her with her family who we are standing on. I haven't talked about her wonderful husband, Albert, but he brought so much joy to Mom's life, to her personal life. They had such great times together. Two people, I think everyone would agree, couldn't have been more different. And Al was and Mom were magic together. And so I, his sister we've spoken to and his family who can't be here, but we want to remember Al and what a wonderful husband, stepfather, step grandfather, and